Warm in here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first press conference of the season. We're looking forward to a really good season. So I will hand over questions to people in the room if anyone has any questions.
Hi, Gareth. I guess
Hi.
the easiest question, the most difficult question, the start of a new campaign. What is the expectation from you on the squad?
To win. Yeah, absolutely to win. I think that's what we're always about at this club. Every competition that we go in for, we take really seriously, and none more so than the WSL.
How much did the frustration of missing out on Champions League last year and the manner in which you missed out form part of your sort of close season preparation, team talks, motivation for the girls, or was that just put to bed as soon as the campaign was done?
Yeah, I think it is what it is. I think it's really tough now because everyone's, the competition's becoming so competitive. But for us, it's more about continuity with the squad that we have. Bringing in Jill, obviously, as a top player. But I think it's more about, we don't want to have to qualify for Champions League, so we want to win the league. If you win the league, hopefully that's enough to get into the group stages outright. And we've seen how difficult it is in that qualification process, us personally and also other teams. So for us, it's about trying to miss that out as much as we can. And we know how tough it is to win the WSL because it's 22 games. And like I say, the levels are improving all of the time. But no, the motivation for us is always there. We don't really look too much at last season, although we know that there were some real positive signs there.
It's one of the things to improve on from last campaign, the start, to have a better domestic start.
Well, I don't think it really... Of course, you want a good start. There's no doubt about that. And there are no easy starts, so to speak. I think we started with 2 away games last season due to, obviously, one of the games being cancelled. But I think if you look at Chelsea over the last 3 seasons, when they won the league, they lost the first game on every occasion. So, it's not about where you start, it's where you finish. And we've always made strong finishes, if you like. Certainly in my time here, we'd like to improve on our start for sure. But, it's not an overly long campaign when I've just mentioned that we only play 22 games. But I think hopefully with, like I say, the continuity of the squad we have, I think all of the signs are there for us to try and make a good start. It doesn't guarantee it, but we'll see what happens.
Finally, for me, just one thing away from the here and now slightly. I just wondered if you or any of the girls have reached out to Caroline Weir, one of your girls formerly of this parish, given the nasty injury she suffered in the last week or so.
Yeah, I mean, I was aware that she sustained an injury. I didn't realise the severity of it. It's a real shame for Caroline. She had a really good season last year. She was a top player for myself and a really good girl to work with. So, I'm sure the girls would have reached out. I have, I've had text conversation with her. So hopefully she's okay. It's a long road. We've seen that. We've seen that this injury now, unfortunately, is kind of quite common in the women's game. So I think it's difficult. It's a difficult moment for her, but she'll come back stronger, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a few little knocks and bumps. I think it's always difficult when you come back from an international break, particularly right at the start of the season, and literally have a couple of days preparation for the game. It's not ideal, but we've been aware of that for a while, and it was the same scenario last season. So yeah, we pushed back training a little bit to allow us some time. Everything was really professionally dealt with in that respect, so that we could check in with players individually. And but the comms are pretty good between nations now, because we have a lot of girls who are away. We're 14, 15 again in this camp, at various camps. So getting that information and getting that necessary kind of detail from the nations, and then obviously just constantly checking in with the girls as well, because the demands on them are really high now. There's no real breaks. Everyone I've spoken to has felt that it was a long international break. So, yeah, and like I say, and we're no different because all the other teams would have suffered the same, but I think it just disrupts that lack of pre-season time that you already have. I think we spoke about that with the players, is about kind of reforming and reconnecting as quickly as we possibly can, because there's not much time.
Just on Jill Ward, how excited are you about that signing? And I wondered how much is the emphasis in terms of what you expect from her on goal scoring in issues in midfield?
Well, midfielders, depending on the type of midfielders, they have to be prepared to score. And, there's no doubt that Jill's got that capability. She's, like I've said previously, a top player. We're here to help her improve even more. She's settled in really well. I think the group is testament to the group of girls that we have here, that we have players who are able to just slot in straight away and adapt to life in Manchester and life at Man City. So I think it's a really good signing for us, one we're really pleased to have. And we look forward to having Jill for the next 2 or 3 years and taking us to new levels, hopefully.
Great. If that's all the questions from the room, we will go to everyone remotely. Emma Sanders, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Hi, Gareth. Nice to see you.
Hi, Em.
I apologise for the branding, so I am actually at Lucas training ground, so I apologise. Just kind of following on from what you were saying there about the international scheduling. We've heard quite a lot of players speak out about it. Millie Bright said that we can't really waste any more time in terms of getting that communication with the federations. Is that kind of a sentiment that you echo? Do you want that sorting out sort of ASAP?
Well, it will be helpful. I mean, you have to look at individuals case by case. I think when you start to see these types of injuries that we're seeing a lot more of, it's so difficult to kind of pinpoint what the causes are. It's just, and that's why we need more detail, more science around kind of why these types of things happen. But it's a worry and it's a concern, and not just for those players who do sustain injuries, but certainly for players that are continually, the demands on them are so high. I think when players went back on this international camp, certainly the Lionesses, I think it was 33 days from the final. So, and then they're obviously not going to get much time off in that respect because they want to be working with their clubs and their new teammates, etc. So it's so difficult. The demands are really high, and we try to get the balance right as a club as much as we possibly can, and I'm sure the other clubs do as well. But it's really, really difficult. I think obviously the World Cup being pushed back as far as it was doesn't help. There was a hell of a long build up to it in terms of players being away with their nations. And it's just a little bit lopsided at the moment in that respect. And I think it's really important that there's more evidence-based detail that we can use to say, right, okay, we need to be really smart here with players' load, because unfortunately at the moment everything kind of looks like it's heading towards the reasoning why we're getting some of these really serious injuries.
Yeah, can I just double check on the availability of the players? Obviously, you were talking about sort of there being a few knocks. I think Bunny Shaw was one that appeared to maybe have a bit of a knock on the international break. Can you give us an update on her, and is there anyone else that's missing?
Yeah, there was a couple of little niggles. That was all. Bunny was one of them. Didn't play in the second game. But that was a decision that was made quite late on. So she's with us now. She's been assessed over the last couple of days, and we'll see how she is for Sunday. But I don't think it's anything too dramatic in that sense. Outside of that, no, everyone was pretty good, in good spirits, and pleased to be back.
Nice one. Thanks, Gareth. All the best of the
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Dan Pentland.
Hi, Gareth. Hope you're well.
Thank you. Hi, Dan.
Just wanted to ask you on West Ham, because obviously you're going to go there as a really kind of settled team, and obviously Rianne's quite late to the party there, and obviously I think she's trying to implement a different style of play as well. Is that going to kind of have any benefit to yourselves, do you think, going into this weekend?
I'm not sure. I think continuity is something that I've not really experienced in terms of a settled squad in the seasons that I've been here, and now finally we've definitely got that in terms of this squad that we're with. But I think there's circumstances around why that's happened. I think the women's game has changed dramatically in the last 2 or 3 years, where players now, you're looking to secure the players who you want to keep at the club for a longer period than just probably 1 year or 2 years maximum. 2 years was probably the longest contract you ever used to see in the women's game. So things are changing a lot, and we have to adapt with it, like all of the other clubs do. And I think you never know when you make so many changes in the summer. You're just never really sure how that's going to play out, and you're hoping that players can hit the ground running pretty soon. But for us, I think it's been a different summer, different kind of. Some of the recruitment meetings we had were very clear in what our objectives are and the players we identified, and also the biggest part about recruitment for me is retention of players that you really want to keep, and I think that's really key. And like I say, there's a lot of change happening in the women's game as we speak from minute to minute, and I think trying to create a settled group as much as you possibly can, I think that's the way forward, the way to work.
Obviously, last few seasons, I think it was 56, 57, 58 points last year to win the title. So, given all the investment elsewhere, everybody wants to be competing this year. But, do you think that you're still going to need to win, 18, 19 games to win the title? Yeah,
I think so. I don't see that changing, that kind of 55, 56 point minimum. And like you say, there's no guarantees in that. Second place was 56 last season. I think, it's... I think the levels are improving for sure, and I think what we will within that, when the levels do improve from other teams and other teams start to take points off one another, then the finishing total is always not as high because teams probably drop more points than they've ever done previously. So it's a difficult one to gauge, really. I mean, for us, it's more about both ends of the box. Going to be really important. We know that we arrive in those situations many, many times. We've got quality players at the top end of the pitch. If we can keep things really clean at the other end of the pitch as well, then that gives us more opportunity to get those necessary points to be up there. But I think it's exciting because it's the levels are improving with a lot of clubs, a lot of new managers coming into it, a lot of players joining, some high-profile signings as well, so I think it's an exciting ingredient for the new season.
Thanks for best of luck for the weekend. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We'll go to Chris Brooks.
Gareth, just to ask about Jess Park, was it always set for you that she'd be back in the squad this season? Were you hoping to see it again, just best all round? And were many teams asking to take Jess on loan?
I'll answer the second part first. Yes, there were teams that were keen to look at Jess, and the first part, it was definitely she was always going to be a part of our plans here. I think the experience she had at Everton last season was priceless for her. I think she's done a lot in her career already as a young player. Obviously had inclusion in the squad, in England squad this last camp, was very close to making, barring a shoulder injury, was close to making the World Cup squad as well. So it's a talented player, as a player that has ability to play in a number of positions. I think we're really excited to see how Jess is going to progress with us this season. But I think really happy to have her back with us.
Just Mary Fowler said a positive World Cup. How ready do you feel she is to play in a bigger role? Was there anything last season you were specifically looking for more of as she adapted?
I think there's always been signs there with Mary that this is a top player, top talent, and I think that she needs, and she's had, obviously time to settle. We signed her on a long contract and we knew that we probably weren't going to see the best of her straight away. We saw glimpses of it for sure. We saw that ability. I think nailing down probably where we saw her best in terms of how we play and where that would be on the pitch. Again, similar to Jess, that she has the ability to play in a number of positions. But I'm really excited to see where Mary's game goes this season. I think having her back more recently with the group and Australia not having had a camp was really beneficial to her. So I think she's playing at high levels at the moment in what we're seeing in training, and excited about what the season is going to bring for her. Thanks, you.
Chris. Any other questions remotely? No? Great. Well, thanks very much, everyone. That wraps up the press conference today, and we'll see you this time next week.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Cheers.
Well done, Chidi.